My name is Shawa. I'm the co-founder and lead instructor at WeCloudData, which is a data science academy. Here's my LinkedIn profile link. I'll put that on the Zoom chat. So if feel free to connect with me. Before we get started, I would like to share some resources with you. So we do have a Discord channel. I will share the link with everyone during the break. We have some open courses as well. If you would like to learn SQL and Python, we have some free resources. We also have a YouTube channel. So yeah, please do follow us on YouTube. Most of the workshop recordings will be uploaded to YouTube. So you should be able to find a fair amount of recordings. And we also have data science career guide and some bootcamp courses. So I'll just give you a very quick introduction, so you know that we have some pretty awesome programs. Okay, so we have 5 to 6 different kinds of data related boot camps. So data science boot camp, we've been running that for 6 years, and it's one of our best boot camps that has the best success rate. We have about 90.9% placement rate in the year of 2021. 2022 was a pretty tough year, but for the student who graduated early this year, we've still achieved about 70% job placement rate. By placement rate, I mean getting a job in the data field. So if you're working a part-time job or going back to your previous job, that doesn't really count. But for the students, who are not getting a job, we put them on real client projects to build up their experience. So we'll support the student until they get jobs. We also have data analytics and BI bootcamp. Um, Data engineering is also pretty hot right now. We also have machine learning engineering, DevOps, and also most recently we also launched a generative AI bootcamp. It overlaps a lot with the machine learning engineering bootcamp, but if you would like to get specialized in natural language processing, large language modeling, and also LLM ops, we have a bootcamp for you as well. All right, let's get started with the main topic. We will talk about job search. Let's make this an interactive session. So feel free to ask questions. You can unmute yourself during my talk, or you can send your question to the Zoom chat, and I'll make sure that I pause from time to time to answer some questions. And at the end of the session, we'll have time for Q&A as well. First of all, job search. Job search, you have to understand that it's a two-stage process, right? So I think most of the candidates, they tend to focus more on just getting ready for jobs, which is upskilling yourselves, building up the skills. But being able to pass the interview and get an offer is a skill set on its own. And we've worked with a lot of candidates who are very skilled, but they just couldn't get a job. And of course, they need to know how to write resumes, but also know how to show the confidence and experience during an interview. So storytelling skill is also very important. We're going to talk about that tonight. Okay. Some of you are here, maybe because you are just getting started and you're curious about the data science, job market, or how do you become a data scientist. I think many of you may have already invested time and effort in upskilling yourselves, going through boot camps, taking online courses, getting certified, by AWS or Google Cloud. We've heard from many participants in the past or students, right, in our communities saying that they applied for hundreds of jobs, but they couldn't land a single interview. But I think if you're not getting interviewed, that's because of your resume, right? So let's talk about that. So why is your resume not working? There are a couple of reasons. I think if you're facing this challenge, there are a few things you need to understand. First of all, there's some common resume issues, right? We'll talk about that. But you also really need to understand the type of job seeker you are, right? So what type of job applicants you are, that also is very important, and you need to focus on, uh, because you need to focus on sort of, you need to work on the weaknesses, right? And then you have to know what is the weakness, and we'll talk about that shortly. And sometimes you do have the right skills and you know how to put the right keywords on your resume, but you're still not getting interviews after applying for hundreds of jobs. And why is that? So let's go through some of these, these questions. Okay. We'll talk about common resume issues first. When you look at some of the challenges in job search, right? Most of the challenges are related to skill set. You're not getting interviews simply because you just don't have the right skill set that the employers are looking for. So having the right keywords on the resume is very important, but that means you need to learn a lot of new, gain a lot of new skills, right? So if you do not have the right skills, for example, if you're a career switcher, you're just getting started with learning data science, then I think just building up your skill is the priority. You need to focus on upskilling yourself, right? Give yourself 6 to 12 months. And if you have full-time capacity to learn, then invest 3 to 6 months, right? You have to go through the grind and make sure that you do have the skill set and make yourself hireable, right? That's the first step. You need to build up the hard skills so that you can have those keywords put on the resume. And of course, if you're just getting started, then you have to make a right decision regarding like what path you're going to go down, right? Is it data analytics, business intelligence, data science, engineering, or machine learning engineering? Definitely talk to someone who's more experienced. You can come and talk to WeCloudData as well if you would like to figure out how to choose the right path. And we also have career guides. Let me see if these pages are loaded. Um, but you can go to weclouddata.com /career guides. And I'll share the link with you. We have BI career guides, data engineering, as well as machine learning and DevOps. So take a look at these. It's pretty comprehensive. I'm pretty sure it will provide some useful information if you're just at the beginning of the journey. Okay. All right. Um, Sometimes you have the right skills. You have the technical skills. You've gone through a lot of training. You've done self-study. You've worked on projects, but you're still not getting a lot of responses. And that's because the technical skills may not be tailored for the job. So job search is a lot of effort. So the suggestion here is that you need to prepare several versions of the resumes. You should definitely have a more generic version that you use for applying for many jobs, right? It's impossible to tailor your job for the 500, tailor your resume for 500 job postings. So my recommendation could be, use a generic version to apply for, let's say, 450 jobs. But for the 50 jobs that are really interesting to you, or it's either the company that's very interesting or the jobs that you think fits your skill set and your passion really well, then you might want to spend more time, read the job posting carefully, and then tailor the keywords and also tailor your experience to what the employers are looking for. If you don't tailor your resume, the chance of getting, hearing the response will be relatively lower, right? So tailoring the resume is important. And if you have the data science skills, my recommendation is always have a BI or data analytics version of the resume. And then you have a data scientist version. And maybe you can have a data engineering version as well, but it depends on whether you have data like related skills, right? Relevant skill sets. Um, and if you're a machine learning engineer, like your goal is to become a machine learning engineer, then you should definitely have a data science version as well, right? So that would be my recommendation. And then apply for different types of jobs, because sometimes when the companies say they're hiring a data analyst, and if you read the job description carefully, they may actually need someone to be able to do predictive modeling and some machine learning as well. And if you're a career switcher, becoming a data scientist in your first job, it becomes harder, right? In a tough job market because it's more competitive. So you might as well just getting started from a data analyst position, and then work your way up to become a data scientist. So that's another suggestion here. But regardless, I think spending some time to tailor resumes will be useful, but you don't have to do that for every job you apply for. Always have a few different versions of your resumes, like a DA version and two DS versions, so you can use that to apply for different types of jobs. Okay, that will save you some time and effort. But for those of you who have the skill sets, right? You've graduated from a master's of computer science, data science program, or you worked as a software engineer, statistician before, you would like to get a data scientist job. The challenge might be you just don't have, the keywords can get you some interviews or get the attention from recruiters, but when they actually go through your resume, they realize that you don't have relevant experience. I think this is probably the biggest challenge for most of the job seekers. So my recommendation here is that, and these are not easy tasks, by the way, right? You need to work on side projects or build a portfolio. I think many job seekers understand that. So when I think recently I reviewed like, in the 50, 60 resumes, we're helping students to improve their resumes. And a lot, I think most of the students know how to like put portfolio project experience on the resume. That's great. But we also did an open like course. So there are a lot of learners in the communities. They took one of the free data fundamental course. When I look at their resume, most of them don't put or don't have a portfolio or don't put their portfolio experience on the resume. So you definitely need to put your side project experience on the resume. That's very important when you don't have related or relevant work experience. So that's something you must do. And also, whenever you can, find some freelancing or internship experience. I know it's not easy to do that because you're just getting started. Why would someone, trust you and give you a freelancing project, right? So sometimes you need to do a little bit networking. It could be an opportunity come from your friend's company or maybe you have to go to those freelancing platform and see if you can find them. But even to get a freelancing opportunity, I think you need to have a decent portfolio. So you have some sort of, credibility there. So people want to work with you, right? Or maybe you have a blog post, but you need to know how to market yourself. Marketing is important. Another option is to enroll in a project-based course. For example, WeCloudData has a real client project-based course. So you go through training and then we put you on real client projects to build up your work experience. So these are some of my suggestions if you're struggling with the experience part. Many candidates, job applicants, they're concerned about their education background. For example, they think that data science jobs may always require master's degree or a PhD. But when we did some job market analysis recently, we noticed that only about 30% of those jobs will mention a master's degree, and 12% mention PhD. So that means the data jobs are usually experienced. Like companies care more about experience over education, and education doesn't education is always valuable, but it doesn't mean you need to have a master's degree. I think your certification, whatever online courses you've done, the Coursera certification you've received, all of those will be helpful because I think it just shows the level of effort you've put in to make this transition. So having coursework certification will help, but that's not the most important factor when it comes to job hunting. From my perspective, I think experience and hard skills are still two of the most important things you need to have. The right things you need to have on your resume. So if you don't have a master's, you can't really change that in a few days, in a few weeks. So don't bother. Just get some certifications, take an online course, join a boot camp. I think all of these will help. During the boot camp, I think it's the effort, right, that you put in, and the fact that you can transition from someone who doesn't know coding, right, 3 months ago to being able to complete a machine learning project, that shows, how much effort you can put in, making things happen. That usually impress people. But of course, some employers, not a big fan of bootcamp students, for example, because they sort of don't believe in someone being able to transition to data science in 3 months, right? That's why you always need to show extra. Just having a bootcamp certificate is not enough. Again, it all comes back to the project you've done, and it needs to be interesting end-to-end project. And I'll talk about that, shortly. Okay. Okay, so these are some of the common issues, and you have to think about it. Like, do you have the right skills, right? Or maybe you have the right skills. Maybe you didn't tailor your resume enough, or maybe the main reason that you're not getting interviews is just because you don't have enough experience, and your past work experience is irrelevant. Then your chance of getting a data science job will be pretty slim in a very competitive market, right? How do we improve the resume to get a better odds? I think you have to work on really awesome side projects or portfolio projects that can catch people's attention. Okay. Education, I think, is just the effort that you need to demonstrate. So online courses, boot camps, all of these certification courses will help. If you don't have a master, I think the cost of getting a master is actually really high. So if your goal is to get a job, get into this, job market in 6 to 12 months, then you should focus on just building up your skill, taking online courses instead of worrying too much about master. But I think a master's program is something always worth investing, right? Your investment, but it could be a long-term thing, like, 2 to 3 years plan. Okay. All right. Let's assume that you understand these challenges, but you're still not getting interviews, right? So you need to understand the type of applicants you are. And depending on your situation, I think your strategy might need to, be slightly different. Sometimes the job applicants are newcomers, right? They're landed immigrants, or they're new in Canada, in the US. Some of the challenges I've seen, I've reviewed a lot of resumes. Sometimes I feel like the resume formatting has some issues. For example, I've reviewed a lot of resumes that have pictures in it. Maybe it's popular in some other countries, but I think here in North America, it's not that common. Like, it's usually suggested that you don't put images or your profile pictures on the resume. So just avoid that. And don't make your resume template too complex. Don't use tables, because some ATS systems are really good at parsing it, but you never know. It doesn't always do a perfect job. So have a simple template and format is actually going to help you. And honestly, like a 2-column style is not necessarily better looking, in my perspective. Most of the time, employers are just looking for the key information. But you do need to keep your resume nice and clean, for sure, right? Don't make it messy, regardless of the formatting. For some newcomers, I think the challenge is you don't have local experience, or you don't have local education. I think the education part is a little bit harder to fix, because you do need to invest, a few months or 1 to 2 years to get a local degree or something. If you don't have local experience, then I think storytelling becomes very important. You need to bring whatever past experience, relevant experience you have, put that on the resume. You need to remove some of those irrelevant, experience. And also you need to try your best to find or build up your experience, in the local environment. And working on side projects, right? Joining hackathons, all of these will be very helpful. That's something, hackathons, join competitions, Kaggle projects can be useful as well, but choose Kaggle projects very carefully. The common ones, popular ones, are not very useful because a ton of people have worked on it. It doesn't show any differentiation. It feels like an exercise, like an assignment. If you go through school, your teacher is going to give you a Kaggle assignment, right? And so again, I think portfolio project is very important, and see if you can find even nonprofit organizations, and see if you will be able to connect with them and offer some, data analytics service to them, even pro bono. But the whole point is just to build up your local experience, and that's very important. Okay. For new grads, I think a lot of the new grads, when I review their resume, the biggest challenge is that it just looked like a student's or a new grad's resume. It doesn't look very professional. You put a lot of coursework on the resume, and education is always on the top. So my first impression is, okay, this is a student. So depending on employers, some employers prefer to hire students because maybe their budget is low, or they're actually looking for to hire some junior data scientist. Then that's good. But I think most of the jobs out there, they require 1 to 2 years of experience, right? So you need to put education at the bottom. Like if they care about education, they know where to find it, right? And remove courseworks. Just make your resume look, it doesn't show enough like real experience. I know a lot of students, if you come from computer science or data science background, you actually do work on projects. And some of those are really interesting projects. So you do need to put those school projects, make some changes and make it sound more like an industry level project, and then put that on the resume. I think that will help you a lot. Okay. Most of the learners we have worked with, they're actually career switchers. They're either career switchers who just coming from a non-tech background, or their work experience is not related, right? Or switchers who go from data analytics to data science, or data scientists who want to become machine learning engineers. So let's take a look at the career switchers who don't have relevant background. So that means you're probably just getting started. I think choosing the right learning path is very important. You'll have to learn, basic programming first, go through some Python and SQL training. You have to decide if you like and enjoy coding. If you don't enjoy programming, at least you need to be very good at SQL, and then maybe BI or data analytics is the right path for you. Because, doing data engineering might be too technical for you, right? Because some people like coding, some people don't like coding. So you have to make a decision and see if you like it or not. And also you need to understand the differences among data analytics, data science, and data engineering. If you're the type of person who come from business background, you really enjoy building relationships, right? Working with clients, enjoying having meetings, creating value for clients, then maybe data science and data analytics are a good path to go down. Because these are the roles that require more interaction with, with the business teams and stakeholders. Data engineering is more technical. To be good at data engineering, you also need to have very good communication skills. But typically, data engineers work with IT. They work with data scientists and data analytics or software engineers. So it's different kind of communications, right? And you'll be focusing on a lot of problem solving and improving the scalability of your data pipelines and things like that. So you'll have to enjoy doing that. So invest some time in learning, and I think throughout this process you understand which path. Because one thing I worry is that right now data engineering is hot, machine learning engineering is very hot. A lot of learners will come to us and say, I want to become a data engineer. And we'll tell them, well, maybe you should do some research and see if this is the right path for you. And learners will say, nope, just sign me up for the data engineering, because I know it's really hot and it's probably easier to get a job in data engineering right now. I would like to do it. And then 2 weeks in, the student will say, okay, I would like to get a refund. I would like to withdraw from the program, because they just get overwhelmed. So I think you absolutely need to make a good decision on which path you would like to go down. And it's worth your time to do some research and talk to people, take a few online courses and see if you actually like it, because you absolutely have to enjoy doing the work, right? So that's my recommendation for career switchers. And then if you're at the very beginning of this path, this journey, then you should just focus on building up your skills first. Like, you don't have to worry too much about job search and projects, because you absolutely need to have the hard skills first before you can do anything else. So that should be the priority. And along the way, you need to build up your hands-on project experience. And that's the same for everyone, every job seeker. So working on project is another priority. For data professionals who already have experiences, right, if you're a data analyst, business analyst, and you would like to upskill yourself and maybe become a data scientist, or you would like to work in AI, I think you also need to sort of make a decision, right? If you want to take advantage of your past experiences, right? So for example, if you come from BI and you're familiar with data modeling, data warehouse, you're very good with SQL, my recommendation is maybe consider data engineering, but there are different types of data engineers. It will be easier for you to begin with analytics engineering. That's one type of data engineers. Analytics engineering typically, involves data modeling, data warehousing, building data pipelines and automation, working with dbt. Of course, you need to be familiar with some of those open source, tools, but it will be a very good and smooth transition. But essentially, you're just becoming more technical. But you don't really have to be like a hardcore programmer, like working with Apache Spark, understanding systems, right? Those will be the next level. But it will be easier for you to transition from data analyst to analytics engineering. So maybe that's something you can consider. But for data analyst or BI professional who would like to become a data scientist, then I think you really need to improve your Python programming skill. And then, of course, you need to invest your time in learning machine learning and AI. You not only need to know the traditional or classical machine learning algorithms, I think to have some advantage on your resume, you need to learn more about generative AI as well. So expect to, invest. I'm assuming you have a full-time job as a data analyst, then that will be 6 to 12 months of effort. And but think of it as an investment because you're investing your future career. Okay. It's very natural for data scientists who want to, go down the more technical path and become, AI specialist or machine learning engineer. So definitely data scientists need to learn more about deep learning and generative AI. But you need to find a specialization. You can't be good at everything, right? So the difference between AI and data science is that I think AI is more specialized. And in data science, you can solve, general business problems, right? Predictive modeling, marketing models, right? Customer segmentation, risk analytics models. You can apply classical machine learning algorithms, and mostly dealing with structured data. But if you want to become AI engineer, then you need to get more specialized in computer vision. So CV is short for computer vision, natural language processing, and of course, recently, large language models is also very, very hot. Learn how to build AI agents, right, and things like that. There's another stream, which is MLOps, or, in some people call that ML engineering. So that's a more engineering focused data science role. So you not only need to understand how to work with machine learning, but you also need to know how to deploy models in production. And that requires knowledge about cloud, infrastructure, Docker, working with APIs, software engineering or software development lifecycle. You need to understand these, and so there are a lot of skills you need to learn as well. But it's definitely exciting, path for data scientists, and see a lot of data scientists, switch into machine learning. Okay, I wouldn't say it's career switch, but it's just natural progression to become to take on a more technical role. So these are my suggestions. You need to understand the type of job applicant you are, and then if you have the right skills and you put the right keywords on your resume, and you're still not getting interviews, here might be the reasons. Okay, I think maybe on your resume, the experience you put on the resume is too generic, and this is what I mean. Okay, let me know if this looks like your resume, because I think this is what 95% don't, 80% of the career switchers resume look like. Okay. You have coding skills, Python, SQL, Java, R, right? You know a lot of tools, data science tools, Pandas, Scikit-learn, PyTorch. You've worked on Kaggle projects. You don't have much experience because, here I think what we're talking about is career switcher. Now, most of the resumes look like this. So how do we differentiate? It's hard to differentiate because most of the resumes look very similar, right? And then when we look at the experience section, you may come from mechanical engineering background, or you come from chemical engineering background, or you come from a business accounting background. So even if you have the hard skills, you need something else like to differentiate yourself. Okay. So here's my suggestion. And this is really important. Companies are looking for specific experience and skills, right? Having Python, Pandas, Scikit-learn, these are like the minimum requirement. Like if you want to become a data scientist, everyone needs to have this kind of skills and knowledge. But companies are looking for very specific experience, right? Maybe they're looking for someone to build a dashboard in the growth team, right? For most of the startups that have SaaS or whatever products, they have a growth team. They want to go from 5,000 customers to 5 million customers. So you're focusing on product analytics or growth analytics. So can you put some of the experience on that? So what I'm saying here is that, well, you might want to ask me, well, I don't work as a growth analytics professional. So how would I have this kind of experience on my resume? So my suggestion here is that whatever data source you work with, whatever Kaggle projects you work with, it needs to be tied to a specific business problem. It's this kind of experience that make you look different. Okay. So for example, a lot of people put machine learning, but is your machine learning experience in insurance or in supply chain? I think this is something that's worth tailoring. Because if you're applying for a machine learning job or data scientist job in supply chain, and they have demand forecasting problems, they have time series problems, and you have to put those experience on your resume, right? Or if it's a company that startups that mention building chatbot, then if you don't have large language model experience, it will be hard to get this type of jobs, right? So understanding business use cases and also build your portfolio project around a business problem is very important. Okay, so that would be my recommendation. And the wording is, of course, is very important. And you'll need to get some professional help on this if you don't know how to do that. All right, so that's about resume and how to build up your experience. And as I said, job search is a two-stage problem, right? You spend months and months building up your skill sets, taking courses, right? Go through boot camps or work on projects, and that gets you the interviews. And of course, you need a killer resume, right? But many people, they have a decent resume, they can get interviews, but they just cannot get an offer, right? So you have to work on your interview skills. Here's some suggestions. First of all, you absolutely need to pass the technical interviews. I don't have a lot of suggestions here because you just have to put in the effort and go through the grind, right? Make sure you don't fail SQL and Python quizzes. Most of them are not hard, right? It's not like the leak code or data structure and algorithm type of questions, if that are typically used in software engineering interviews. For data science or data analytics interviews, it's just some simple SQL and Python questions, and you have to nail them, right? There's no excuse, of not passing them. You just need to work hard on that. So choose, HackerRank or LeetCode, whatever, sort of resources you can find to practice that, okay? So that's the first step, because you have to pass the technical round before you get to talk to the hiring managers in most of the cases, right? Now, storytelling is really the key here. I'm assuming that you have the right skills and you can pass technical interviews, and you move on to the next stage and get to talk with the hiring manager. there are a couple of questions you need to ask yourself, and you have to nail them in interviews, right? They want to know who you are, right? But it's not just about like what school you graduated from. Like most of you are career switchers. So your story might not be that interesting to the interviewers because they think they're interviewing someone who's interesting who can do the work, right? So you need a story that explains your journey, what gets you here today, right? It is okay that you're a career switchers and 6 months ago you don't even know coding, okay? And many people think that, well, I'm not confident about my experience, my skills, but turn that into your advantage because you can tell people that, well, 6 months ago I don't even know coding, but look at where I am right now. You know, I'm able to complete 5 data science projects. I'm able to pick up Python programming in 3 months. I can complete 5 courses in 3 months. So that shows you how committed I am, right? So these are actually some of the actual, you know, good traits people are looking for in, you know, in a good candidate, okay? But it just depends on how you tell the story. And when you tell people you are a fast learner, then you can turn this into your advantage because you need to give people the proof, right? But of course, if you tell the story this way, then you're most likely looking for a more junior level position, right? Because you're basically telling people that you're a career switcher, you went through this learning journey, and you would like to get this opportunity to, you know, to prove yourself. So for a junior job, I think this is definitely okay. Okay. The most important question, of course, here is why should we hire you? Why do you think you're the best candidate? And why do you think you're better than other candidates? Right? So this really depends on the company that's interviewing you. So you have to read the job descriptions very carefully. You need to understand what they're looking for. And then to understand who will be interviewing you, you know, you have to do some research about the hiring managers. I think a lot of the companies, they will actually tell you about, like, for example, HR will tell you who you will be interviewing with, right? They will tell you the name of the person, the title, the position. Definitely do some research on LinkedIn and try to understand their journey as well. Don't look at their existing position. You know, check out their education background, their past, you know, the jobs they've done, their career path. And maybe this person is a career switcher as well, you know. So you have to do some research. And then at the beginning of the interview, most of the interviewers will do introduction. They'll introduce the team and they'll most likely explain to you why they're hiring, right? And pay attention. This is where you apply your good listening skills because some of those information might be useful when you explain to people why they should hire you, okay? One example I can give you is that what if this is a director of data science team who just got hired and he's building a new team, right? Now, comparing this to someone who is a manager of data science team in a large company and he's managing 20 data scientists, okay? The way you answer this question will be very different because what they're looking for is very different. If I'm the director of data science team and I'm the one man who needs to build up a team, right? My mandate, my priority is setting up the right team, but at the same time, I need to socialize. I need to prove that my team or my future team will be able to add value, create value for many different stakeholders in the organization, right? So you're basically supporting this director, right, to make him successful, to make the team successful. So communication skill will be very important in this case. If you come from product management, project management, or whatever business background, this is where you're going to show off your communication skills, leadership skills. It's not just about, you know, because it's not just about like, oh, I have panda skills, I can clean data really well. No, that's not what's important here, right? But if the hiring manager is a manager who manages a team of 15 people, then they're looking for some very specific skills. And they care about like, if I hire you and you start tomorrow, can you do the work? And how much effort I need to put in to train you? right? Are you going to hit ground running in a week, or I need to spend 2 months training you? Now, that's also very important. So, so you have to sort of understand the situation, right? Do your research. That's very important. Okay. When you answer this type of question, also always put yourself in the hiring manager's shoes. It's never about yourself. And when we do mock interviews with students, hey, the students will tell us, okay, I'm here to grow my career, to improve my skills. No, that's the worst answer. No one cares about your learning journey, your growth. We post this job because we want to hire someone who can contribute to the projects, right? So the way you answer this type of question is all about what can I bring to the table? Okay, it's not about you learning or becoming a senior data scientist. When you're in, and then let's talk about, a plan, like a growth plan, right? And we can develop your skills but when we're making the hiring decision, it's more about hiring the right fit. And sometimes different companies, different hiring managers is different definition of who is the right fit. Right? So you also need to read the job description, but sometimes it's not going to give you all the details. So when you talk to HR will tell you, do you have any questions for me? Well, that's when you're going to ask this kind of questions. Like you need to ask, why are you hiring? How big is the team? Right? Who is the hiring manager? Well, sometimes they won't give you all detailed questions, but just probe and see if you can get more information. That's useful. Okay. And most of the employers, of course, are looking for someone who can just get the work done. Sometimes it's project-based. They need someone ASAP, as soon as possible, right? So that definitely they're looking for someone who has, related experience. I found that nowadays companies are not that patient, as patient as before. Like they're probably not willing to spend that much time to train someone from scratch. And they're always looking for experienced candidates who can just come in and do the work, right? So you have to sort of show some kind of proof. Now, this is where your past work experience can be useful, even if it's not directly related to data science. But if you can find something that's related to data science that proves that you can just get work done, and you have that kind of mindset, that's very important as well. So again, storytelling is very important because if you can tell a nice story and people like you, you can negotiate higher salary, right? So getting a job negotiation is important as well. You need to show a lot of confidence, first of all, right? Your interview performance definitely matters. That depends on, sometimes it could be a huge salary difference, right? If you don't show enough confidence, maybe they think you're a little bit junior, but sometimes you're actually very skilled. So that's important. And you need to ask yourself, are you the right person, right? With the right skills? I think if you get an interview, then most likely you have the right skills. Do you have are you the candidate with the right experience, right skills, the right mindset, and also the right price tag or salary expectation? Because sometimes companies want the best candidate, but maybe they cannot afford it, right? Or right. So that's why I think when you're competing against a pool of talents for one job, even though you might be less experienced, it does, like, you might actually have an advantage, to be very honest, because sometimes maybe the hiring company think that, let's say you're competing against someone and you both have similar salary expectation. But you may get the job because the hiring manager think the other person is more experienced and he's more excited about certain things. Like, for example, he's more excited about deep learning and machine learning, but the job is more like, basic statistics, predictive analytics. There's not much deep learning. Then they may want to keep you because they know that person is going to leave very soon. And this happened several times when we refer students to hiring companies. I remember one director told us that, well, the student has great skills, worked on some projects, it's all good, but I'm not giving him an interview opportunity in this case because most of the project he's done is deep learning related. I just want to hire someone who can do time series forecasting, which is machine learning, but it's not as exciting. So I don't think he's going to stay very long on this position. and this is a good candidate, but he didn't even get an interview opportunity, even though we have some referral relationship. So when I mentioned that you need to tailor your resume to some jobs, uh, it's important, because if you have a lot of machine learning projects and you use that resume to apply for a data analytics job, then I'll suggest you to remove most of those machine learning experiences. I know it's hard. I think building resume is more about just removing things instead of adding things. Just, some students are not comfortable when I tell them to just remove machine learning. I know you spent 2 months working on that project, but if now you are using this resume to apply for a data analytics job, you don't need a lot of machine learning experience. Like, people know you're skilled, but they just don't want to interview you. Okay. So tailoring is important as well. That wraps up my presentation. I see there are some questions in the chat. I think it's a good time to move on the Q&A session. I'll try my best to answer your questions. Okay. So feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand. But let me go through the 11 questions on the channel first. From Mitch, did you release the finalized version of job market analytics report? Oh, thanks for reminding me. We're working on it. It will be released very soon. I think we have another job market event scheduled. Adam, you can confirm that, but yeah, so stay tuned. We will definitely publish that and email the report to everyone. Okay. Daniel, for the generative AI bootcamp, how is the job hunting going for the students? Are generative AI related positions increasing? It's dramatically increasing, but this is a new bootcamp, so we don't have any, job placement rate number. So what I mean by generative AI bootcamp is that recently WeCloudData restructured all the programs and course structure. So if you would like to join a generative AI bootcamp, that's basically a deep learning course you need to take, a large language model course, which is the NLP course you need to take, and then the machine learning operations course. But if you would like to become a machine learning engineer, then there are several different courses you need to take. But the generative AI bootcamp is more specialized in large language modeling, and the projects will be more related to how to build, chatbot and fine-tune large language models and things like that. But the machine learning engineering will be more focused on how to deploy end-to-end models and how to bring things into production. So it covers more cloud, Docker, Kubernetes, building APIs and things like that. But of course, the first part is about deep learning as well. Okay. If you could give us an example or examples of interesting end-to-end projects, that a link would be appreciated. What specific aspects of machine learning are most valuable if you're a career changer looking to land a role in data science? I think, well, first of all, I can give you a quick introduction to what I mean by end-to-end projects. We do have a lot of students' portfolio project presentation. I would recommend you go to our YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com/@WeCloudData. I think we have a playlist for student presentations. You can take a look at those. There's some like data science presentations and data engineering project presentations. Those will be helpful. And what I mean by end-to-end project is that if it's a data science project, don't just download a CSV from Kaggle and train a model. If I'm the hiring manager, I consider that as an exercise. That's not a project. A project usually, has a problem definition. What are you trying to work on? What's the problem you're trying to solve, right? And then you need to source and curate data. Are you scraping the data? Or if the data is downloaded from Kaggle, are there multiple CSV files? Can you create a database and use SQL to do data preparation and then use Python to read data from the database and then do your data analysis and visualization? Because that's how real life projects work. Data scientists rarely work with CSV files in a large company because the data is very sensitive. They're not going to send CSVs, or, all over the places. It's going to sit in a database, and you have to write SQL to extract the data, right? So you have to mimic the real life process. And then, of course, you go through data cleaning, data preparation, machine learning, right? And at the end, I think you need to be able to explain the model and the use cases really well, and what's the impact and how you can apply your models, where you can apply the models. And writing a project summary report is going to be very important, and also do a presentation. You need to get like your presentation slide ready. So if you work on 5 projects, you have to go through this kind of process. So it's more work, but it will be worth it. Okay. What specific aspects of machine learning are most valuable? I think if you're getting your first data science job, focus on end-to-end. Being very specialized in certain machine learning techniques is not necessary. I think it's the end-to-end experience, extracting data, scraping data, visualize data, exploratory analysis, right? And then train the models, deploy the models, explain the models. If you can show the end-to-end process, I think that will get you the job. And once you are, when you start working as a data scientist, and of course you can get more specialized. Okay. um and uh and if you're talking about like specific industries and things like that, then you have to go with your interest. I would usually recommend just work on projects that are from, like, let's say, different industries. Maybe for one of the projects, you can work on marketing analytics. You need to understand how data science and machine learning works in marketing in general, right? Marketing is all about getting the right customers. So there will be customer acquisitions and customer retention, customer lifetime value. You need to understand several different popular use cases of data science, right? And then you find the right data set and work on that. So you sort of have a concentration on the marketing analytics. Then if you put those experience and use that to apply for a data scientist position in a marketing department, right, you will stand out. Because when they go through like 90 other resumes that all have Kaggle projects and very generic data science skills, and then when they look at your resume, it's more like, focused on customer retention, acquisition, right, customer segmentation. Of course, it's more interesting, right? And then if you're using your resume to apply for a supply chain industry related like data science job, then do you have demand forecasting, time series forecasting projects, right? Back orders. And of course, it's a process for you to learn how data science is applied in certain industry as well. So you learn a lot through that process. Okay. Um, Data Camp offering hackathon. I'm not familiar with that. I'm not sure if Data Camp offer hackathon or not. What I was referring to, I think I mentioned hackathon when I was talking about newcomers, right? Landed immigrants who don't have local experience. So those offline hackathons, where you can actually go meet people, work on some data challenges, that'll be very helpful because it's a great way to do networking and build up some local experience. Because usually hackathons, they have sponsors, they have a problem, right, where they go talk to local companies or uh, local communities where they need whoever who need like data help or data science help. So they will give you the data set, right? So those will be helpful. Okay. What is relevant background? Relevant background. So what I mean by that is you just have either related, project experience related to data science, right? So either you work on data science challenge, that's considered, or you work on data science portfolio project, for example. So the projects are machine learning, data visualization, and of course those are relevant skills. But if we're talking about relevant, I think the question might be more related to relevant work experience, right? So what I mean by that is if you're applying for a data scientist job and you currently work as, let's say, a mechanical engineer, then you're considered to have irrelevant background. So most of the time, people will just skip your resume if that's only if you have some data science skills and keywords, but your work experience section you list mechanical engineer, then chances of getting interview is very small, right? So the way you structure your resume will be different in this case. You might want to put your portfolio projects up there before your mechanical engineer experience. Uh, but the goal here is just to be able to show people your experience because they only spend a couple of seconds. The moment that they see that you don't have directly related experience, then they may want to switch, just want to skip your resume, right? In the startups, you must wear multiple hats. I totally agree. So if you get hired as a data scientist in a startup, I think you need to get ready to work as a data engineer. Sometimes you need to build dashboard as well. But I forgot uh, which question this is related to. But I totally agree with George's comment on this. So actually, one suggestion I have is that if you want to become a data scientist, having some data engineering experience on your resume will give you some advantage as well. I think some companies, especially startups, they're actually looking for um, data scientists who also have like engineering skills or even software engineering skills. That's always going to give you some advantage. What type of domain experience could add good value as a data scientist? I think we talked about this already. The domains really depends on the types of jobs you're applying for. If you're applying for jobs in the bank, then having banking related data science experience is definitely project experience will definitely be helpful. So that depends on the industry, I guess. Whenever you work on a portfolio project, the first thing you need to decide is which domain you're going to go with, right? Are you going to focus more on insurance or are you going to focus more on retail? For retail, I think building a recommender system is always, welcome. And doing customer analytics, right? Insurance, then there are quite a few insurance related data sets on Kaggle as well. But when you describe this kind of project experience, make it more business friendly. Because don't just show people that you built some machine learning models and the performance is really good. A lot of times this is not what people care about. So I think the way you articulate your experience in certain domain when you're working on some portfolio project will be very important. Are there any particular portfolio projects that will help us cast the widest net when it comes to business cases for companies? I think a lot of data science jobs out there are product related, right? And custom analytics related, because any kind of companies will need to acquire customers, whether it's B2C or B2B. So I think working on custom analytics problems is never wrong, right? So if you can find customer related data, behavior related data, and do custom analytics, customer segmentation, predictive churn, I think these are projects that are always good to have on your resume. And if you work on risk, that will be more specialized because only certain industry will need risk analytics, right? But even a bank that cares about risk management, they still need to acquire customers, right? So custom analytics applies in insurance, e-commerce, telecom, many different, and even startups, they need to figure out how to do the growth analytics and acquire new customers. So custom analytics is never wrong to put on the resume. I was a DS at a big tech company and never did ML. The 3 years I was there, why do many companies ask for ML when most DS never even use ML? That's a really good comment. I think if you work at big tech companies like Meta, if you get hired as a data scientist, you may not build a lot of machine learning models because most likely you'll be working with like product managers doing product analytics. Like you need to do a lot of A/B testings, understand statistics, do a lot of ad hoc analytics, right? And not necessarily building machine learning models because in big tech companies, they usually have machine learning team that specialize in that. And also most of them are actually software engineers. So I agree with you, but this is because of how data scientist is defined. I think the market is very confusing in the past many years. Data scientists are considered as a unicorn that can do everything, and that's why companies are always, want to hire data scientists. But I think the market is changing. Data science is getting more specialized. I think a lot of the companies when they hire data scientists nowadays, they will like think about it and sort of know like who are we really hiring, right? If they're hiring someone who is deploying models, they may consider calling that ML engineers. Or if they're hiring someone who's just doing data analytics, then it's going to be data analyst. So I start to see this like actually improving. Like if the job is actually requiring machine learning, even though the title is data scientist, then they will tell you specifically what they're looking for. So that's why there's data scientist jobs out there that need to know natural language processing, for example, or that have more specialized skills. Um, but yeah, I agree with you. A lot of data scientists or data scientist job postings out there, even though they require machine learning, that's not what you end up doing. Uh, Mitch said, I'd like to come in voice chat to talk about my more recent ML experience. You can unmute yourself and just speak up. Like, we'd love to hear about your experience, Mitch.
Hey, thanks. And how should I refer to you? It's Shawa.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
correct.
Yeah, no. I've been doing a lot of I'll call them more ML exercises just to build up my proficiency in Python. A lot of it's been with machine learning concepts. Like, give me a look at the course outline here. But it's like supervised, unsupervised, neural networks, tree-based, gradient boosting, natural language processing, TensorFlow. I just wanted to have a better understanding of where, maybe where I could be taking that. And if there are sort of specific aspects of machine learning that I should sort of hone into on, like, yes, I did a course on gradient boosting, but no, that's not really going to land me much in the way of a data engineering or a data scientist job.
Yeah, so, well, thanks for sharing your experience. So first of all, you mentioned a bunch of algorithms and tools. Um, those are, I think, the basic things you will need to learn. To become a data scientist, that's assuming that you need to know machine learning. Then you need to have, the fundamental knowledge, right? So about, algorithms such as supervised, unsupervised, and gradient boosting is one of those algorithms. You absolutely need to know how the pipeline works and how to build models. But what's going to get you a job is you need to know how to, for example, TensorFlow is really just the API, the tool for you to build models. So if you say that you know how to work with TensorFlow, then as a hiring manager, I don't really believe that you know how to solve data science problems. right? A lot of people know how to work with the API. You can just read the documentation and just learn, get a sample notebook, and you'll be able to train a machine learning model. But what's more important for a data science job is, do you really understand the business problem? Like what we're trying to solve here? Let's say the challenge here is that we're losing customers. So typically what companies will do is they have to do marketing campaigns, or they, to do marketing retention campaigns to give customer discount, or, so those are marketing effort. But then of course you can figure out the product issues, like what's causing people to leave. Do we have some product challenges, or is it because of the competitors? So business will have a lot of questions, and data scientists will sort of work with the product managers or marketing managers to understand like what's going on. So you're going to do ad hoc analysis. But then when it comes to machine learning, you might be building like churn models. So you can
Okay.
use supervised learning methods to build churn models. And the goal is to predict who's more likely to leave. So you need to identify those high-risk customers, and then the marketing team will do their tricks to retain these customers. And you need to help them to keep track of that and do assessment, evaluation, and see if we're doing a good job, right? But again, what's more important is when it comes to churn modeling, there are actually tips and tricks that experienced data scientists who sort of specialize in that area that they apply. So you have to do more reading about different use cases and understand how that's used. And ultimately, I think when it comes to data science, the analytics, the analysis is, is more important than the type of algorithm, because most of the time, like you end up just choosing one or two highly performant models, right? But you still need to be able to explain that to the business so that they can confidently use it, because your model needs to turn into some sort of strategy so that they can reach out to the customers. And they need to understand why they are leaving, for example, and your model will need to be able to explain that. That would be
Sorry.
my recommendation. You need to go through these courses, right? Learn these skills, and you're going to go through a lot of exercises and quizzes, so you know how to build machine learning models. But the next level, to take it to the next level, you need to understand the different use cases of machine learning in the industry. And there are a lot of good materials you can find online. Like you can read blog posts about churn modeling. You can find white papers and see how Accenture and Deloitte does that. Um, and yeah, and then build your project around that. As I said, like customer analytics, right? You find one industry, and then you build projects around that, and I think that will help you stand out.
Thank you. Thank you. I just honestly, sorry, you just gave me sort of one sort of follow-up question. So will the business will the primary concern of the business be sort of me understanding the scope and the limitations of the business model, or is it more so how I provide the solutions? They don't need me to care about the business case. They just need me to understand the solutions for said business case, or
I think the reality is that your data science model is rarely the solution to the problem. Predictive models and data science models usually will add value. For example, you help the marketing team to identify high-risk customers, right? But sometimes you can have very accurate model, but when the business takes the model and execute on it, they do marketing campaign, if their strategy goes wrong, then your model is useless. Right? You still need to have a good product, for example. So, and working as a data scientist, sometimes you realize that the work you do, even though the model is very accurate, it doesn't always help the company save cost. It also depends on how people use that. So an experienced data scientist, or people who can actually become, let's say, a data science leader in an organization, is someone who can actually communicate really well. You either tell people this is not going to work, or you educate people and teach them how to use your model, because that's very important. Otherwise, people always think that, well, it's your model that's not working, but a lot of times it's just like people don't understand how to use it. And if you have a machine learning model that's deployed in production into your product, and that's why companies need to do a lot of A/B testing and figure out, like, you actually need the good product features to go with it. to make it really, really powerful. So you absolutely need to understand the business, understand the product, and to be willing to communicate and have some sort of impact, right, on business decision making. And I think this is the value of data scientist in any kind of organization. And if you are the type of data scientist who only know how to build machine learning models and just take requests, build a model, then I don't think the career trajectory will be really good, really well for you.
Okay, yeah, no, that's all great info. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Cool. Well, moving on to the next question. I'm CBAP certified BA and recently completed Power BI and SQL Server certification. I'm a functional BA. How can I position myself? I'm in a crossroads. Actually, I want to have an entry-level data analyst job. I think transitioning from BA to DA is actually not hard. I think in a lot of cases they are very similar. Data analysts are usually considered to be more technical. So my recommendation is, I think Python is something you need to pick up. Okay. Ironically, like the job postings are going to ask for Python and SQL, even though when you join the team as a data analyst, you most likely 95% of the time you use SQL, but Python is somehow just the skill you need to have. Just like, we just talked about it, like some data scientists don't even build machine learning models on a daily basis, but it seems like you still need to have ML experience, right? So one of my recommendation would be definitely learn Python as well. But if you have both SQL and Python, it should be pretty straightforward for a BA to transition into a BI and data analytics position. And definitely you need to learn how to build a dashboard, but seems like you already have Power BI experience, which is great. And you don't necessarily need to target entry-level data analyst job, to be honest. You can go even for a senior position, because if you have a BA background. Okay? Another question is, how and where do you recommend searching for jobs outside of LinkedIn, where hundreds and even thousands of people apply? I think, there are common list of common websites people use for job search, but of course, everybody use that. Other channels, then, well, it should be like networking. I think you need to do outreach, like cold calling, reach out to recruiters. It could be like recruiting companies, and it can be like recruiters at the big tech companies. It's their job to stay connected with people and find the right candidates. And it's the messaging that's important. Like when you reach out to recruiters and do networking, you need to show people your portfolio or GitHub. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to, unless you already have very strong experience. If you don't, then you have to impress people. So having a blog post, I think, usually very helpful, and you can use that to start the conversation and ask people for suggestions, opinions, or if you're trying to network with a data scientist. But if you're talking to recruiters, then show them your GitHub blog post and show your confidence. And they'll definitely be interested in chatting with you. If you get rejected, no response, it's totally fine because people are all busy. I think I've got like 70 requests. I don't even have time to go through. But you just keep trying. If you send connection requests to 100 people, you only care about those 2 who reply to you, right? Ignore the 98 because most likely they didn't even see the requests, okay? There are a lot of hiring managers out there don't know exactly what they're looking for. That I agree. Sometimes when you read the job description, it's kind of weird. But it depends on who wrote the job descriptions. Maybe the hiring manager, in a big company, it was the HR team. Because when I used to hire, built the team, I just need to come up with the role profile. I will tell HR what I'm looking for, the key skills, right? Some keywords. I'll provide some descriptions because I don't have the time to write a very detailed job description. And then the recruiter or HR will basically be doing their research and just write the resume, complete the job description, and they will send it to me for review. And and that's why sometimes, like in a data scientist job, posting, you'll see people asking for 5 different programming languages, even though you just need to use Python SQL most of the time, right? Thanks, Nidhi, for sharing your experience. Question, just following up on my last comment, since I did not do ML at my DS job, am I best suited to apply for BI engineer or analytics engineer job? So you mentioned that you work as, you mostly did BI and building ETL pipelines. Not really. I think your advantage is that you can definitely apply for analytics engineer job because that's what you did. But your job title is data scientist. You just need to upskill yourself, add machine learning experience, and build some interesting machine learning projects. And you will still be able to get a data scientist job for sure. Yeah, because your job title was data scientist, so that gives you like, you know, some credibility, and you just need to be able to justify your skills. It should work out for you. For the churn model example you mentioned, I think it is difficult for us to obtain the actual business data to do an end-to-end project. Should we work on projects not relying too much on confidential data instead? You'll have to search really hard. I know there's some IBM churn data set out there that maybe 5,000 people have already used. It's more about how you approach the problem. Like you can use the same data set. Maybe the notebook is even exactly the same, but when you put that experience on your resume, you need to add more business stuff there. Like the way, because most of the time when I review data science resumes, you know, people will say, I used, like when they describe project experience, right away they start to talk about the technical stuff. They say, I used Python to prepare data. I use whatever, Plotly to visualize data. I use scikit-learn to train machine learning models. And my model is 98% accuracy. So that has no business context. You definitely to add some technical or business jargons that are related to churn. So even though your data set is a common data set, you have to describe that in a way that people think that you do understand how this works in real life. And you can read a lot of useful articles to learn how to write those put those experience down. I have a PhD. This is probably the last question I can answer before we end the session. Have a PhD in computational chemistry. What meant someone like me who specializes in a certain area but would like to move to a tech job? Is my profile considered as newcomer for data science? I have a paper published on applying neural network for quantum physics. What type of Kaggle project do you suggest I should include in my portfolio? Having PhD in computational chemistry, I think it's very helpful, especially that you have used deep learning to solve, you know, quantum physics problems. It is, you know, more advanced, but I can tell you that if the job indeed required deep learning, a lot of companies would prefer to work with someone who has a master's background or PhD. That will be your advantage, right? So there are machine learning jobs that do require advanced degrees because you have to read like the latest literature. You will need to be able to implement new ideas. So that's always going to be your advantage. If you're applying for, like, it depends on the job description. But if you're applying for, let's say, a data scientist job in a marketing team and you're doing customer churn, then some of these may not be directly, you know, it won't give you a huge advantage because XGBoost just works out great. And they would like to hire someone who actually has more industry experience. But again, I think my suggestion for you is maybe just sometimes you need to know like how to remove some of the experiences because people may think that you're overqualified. but there are a lot of jobs out there that people are just looking for someone like you. So definitely get more specialized in large language modeling since you're already familiar with like neural networks. Improve your, get really good at Python programming. I think you'll be able to get a data scientist job or machine learning engineering job. Cool. I think I answered most of the questions. There are 2 more questions, but at this point, I don't have the time to complete all the questions today. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take some notes. I'll make sure that I get back to everyone. I'll maybe send everyone an email, follow-up email, and just provide some of those answers. Or we will share this Notion page, and I'll add my comments on this page so you guys can review that later. Okay. All right. Thanks everyone for attending this session. And we will have another job market event very soon, I think in September. So stay tuned. I look forward to talking with you guys again in the future events, and have a great evening.